Thank you all for joining this webinar on how FeedbackFive campaign analytics work for you. I'm just going to give a few housekeeping notes as we get going here. So firstly, again, you should be seeing a title slide right now on my shared screen. If you're just seeing my video instead, just double click on the Zoom window and Zoom will switch it so that you can see both. If you have any other issues with that, you can put them in the Q&A and Franz will help you troubleshoot. In fact, put all your questions in the Q&A throughout the webinar, especially related to FeedbackFive Analytics. I will answer as many as I can toward the end. And lastly, we are recording this webinar and we will share that out by email later, along with any other resources that we share through the chat throughout the webinar. So if you need to revisit it or share it with someone else, you'll be able to do that. So welcome again. My name is Rachel Hoover. I'm a Customer Education Manager here at Ecom Engine. And I think you're all familiar with Ecom Engine and the several tools that we make for Amazon sellers. Today, we're focusing on FeedbackFive and specifically on the new analytics capabilities that FeedbackFive has now. So first, I'll cover some background on why we decided to revamp FeedbackFive's analytics based on some Amazon changes over the past couple of years. Then I'll show in the tool how the page works and cover the main features. I'll also point out one or two example use cases as we go to make sure that you know how do these features actually help you in your business. And then at the end, again, I'll take as many questions as I can. My teammate Franz will also be sharing some further resources in the chat as we go, and he'll be hanging out in the Q&A to answer some questions as well. If we somehow don't get to your question, we will do our best to follow up with you. And again, we're sending out the recording so you can always revisit it as well. So with that, let's go ahead and get started with some background on the changes in the Amazon world that kind of prompted the need for this new analytics capabilities. So starting in late 2019, Amazon gradually rolled out one-tap ratings, which is an option for buyers to leave just a star rating on an item they purchased and not a full written review. So basically, Amazon's review page used to require both the star rating, which you see at the top of the slide here, as well as the review comment in order to submit the review. But now all buyers have to do is tap the star they want to select on the overall rating part, and that rating is submitted immediately. So the good news about this change is that many ASINs are getting a lot more ratings now because buyers find this so easy, but they're not getting as many written reviews. And as a seller, there's no way to analyze those one-tap ratings to easily see how many your item got, how many were positive versus negative, etc. And just to illustrate this further, Amazon takes those one-tap ratings and factors them into the average rating of the product at the top of the listing, so on the left side of the slide there, and shows the total number of ratings there, which includes both written reviews and one-tap ratings. But if you want to see specific buyers' opinions, you can only see written reviews. So there are a lot of customers sharing their opinions in a way that just isn't as visible to sellers now. The second major change is that about a year ago, Amazon added the Request a Review button to the order details page in Seller Central, giving sellers a new way to ask for a product review and seller feedback on each order. And because clicking that button for every order is super time consuming, FeedbackFive quickly gave you a way to automate that process. But since the request message is going out from Amazon directly to the buyer, Amazon didn't offer any open rate or click-through data, and you can't even see this message in your sent folder in buyer seller messaging either to just make sure that it's working and getting good results. So here again, there's some good news that there's this new way to request reviews and feedback. It seems to be overall working well, but there's just that lack of visibility. Sellers aren't able to see specifically, did this message actually go out to the buyer that I wanted it to? Is it working? Is it getting good results? And lastly, this past November, Amazon released new communication guidelines that changed what you can send through buyer-seller messaging. We did a whole webinar back in September on those changes when they were first announced. So you can see the recording of that webinar for complete details. Franz is sharing the link to that recording in the chat right now. But one of the big changes was that Amazon doesn't allow open rates to be tracked on buyer-seller messages anymore. So not only do they not show open rates on the new request to review messages, you can't track them on custom buyer-seller messaging emails either. So To summarize, we saw that sellers needed better analytics in order to track those one-tap ratings and the average rating of their ASINs to get the full picture of buyers' opinions on their products, and to track the results of your campaigns. So both buyer-seller messaging emails and Amazon requests to review emails. So that's why we've built a totally new campaign analytics page for you. And now I'm going to just switch into FeedbackFive itself and show you that page, how it works, and how you can leverage that for your business. Let me get my window changed over here. All right. So this is the FeedbackFive dashboard that you're all familiar with. This is a demo account, so of course your data is going to look a bit different, but the way you would get to this new analytics page is just go to emails at the top and select analytics. And what you're going to see here is this kind of main central graph, as well as a lot of different options for what you actually want to analyze. So just to start at the top here, you can choose to look at the results for all your campaigns or just a specific campaign if you have several. You'll see any campaign that was active and actually sent any emails within the past 90 days. So even if you deactivated a campaign, you want to go back and look at it, that's still available there. You can choose the time frame all the way up to 90 days. Usually you'll want to choose at least 30 days to get a good amount of data to really make a judgment. But if you have a brand new campaign or something changed recently and you really want to dig into just the last week, you can do that. And then you can select the granularity as well, so daily or weekly. I recommend normally using weekly, but if you're down to looking at just the last 7 days, of course, you're going to choose daily. So you have all those options there depending on your needs. And then you can look at results for either product reviews or seller feedback, and there's several options within both of those. So I'm going to start with the product review options, and then I'll go into the seller feedback options in a minute. So I'll leave this on emails and product reviews. And that gives me this other dropdown, which shows written reviews, total ratings, and average rating. So written reviews you're pretty familiar with. This is similar to what you see on your dashboard today and on the product reviews page. For any items that you are monitoring in FeedbackFive, so any ASIN that you've selected for product review management and that is included on the campaign you've selected. So if you have just a product review specific campaign that's only for certain items and you choose that up at the top, you're only going to see the reviews on those specific items. So it's just the reviews that could have actually resulted from this campaign, not something that couldn't be coming from FeedbackFive that you'll see in here. So it's just all automatically filtered for you, and it's just the count of positive and negative, but this is the written reviews. If you want to see the one-tap ratings as well, you can choose total ratings. So this is new. This lets you see, let me drill down a little bit. From the day that you started monitoring an item, FeedbackFive will capture the total number of ratings that that item has as of that day. And that much you could kind of just see by going to Amazon. You know, you could go to your listing and you could see, as of today, this is how many total ratings it has. But the difference here is that FeedbackFive is going to then track that number daily and keep track of how much it's increasing for you. So you're usually going to see the total ratings just kind of slowly, steadily increase because buyers usually add ratings and they don't as often take them away. But what you want to look out for is as this campaign is going out asking for reviews and ratings, do the total ratings suddenly tick up faster? Is there some kind of improvement that definitely is connected to the campaign? So we make that really easy to see here. And we keep that historical record for you. So from the time you start monitoring an ASIN, and we recommend you monitor as many as possible, you're going to see all of that information, both written reviews and total ratings. So if you find that your written reviews are not increasing as much as maybe you had hoped with activating a review campaign, don't forget to look at the total ratings as well, because again, a lot of buyers are just leaving a one-tap rating and they're not bothering to write out a review comment. And the only place you're really going to be able to keep track of that is here with the total ratings. And then you might be wondering, how do I know whether those total ratings are positive or negative, or just how is the item doing overall? And for that, you'll select average rating. And here, this is compiling, again, for the items that are being monitored by FeedbackFive and that are included on the selected campaign or campaigns. You'll be seeing their average star rating. So that is taking into account all the one-tap ratings and the written reviews, just as Amazon shows it on the listing when buyers are considering purchasing your product. These little plus and minus symbols that you're seeing here, this is actually something brand new that we just added today. This is showing events that may have impacted your metrics so that you can see, if there's a sudden spike or dip or some kind of change, you can hover over those. And like this plus sign means more ASINs were added for monitoring in FeedbackFive on that day. So that might explain some kind of change in the numbers. The minus sign is when some were removed again. So you'll see those little event markers along a lot of the lines on the graph as well. So those are kind of the main graph options for product reviews, product ratings. I'm going to scroll down here to the product metrics table, which has some more options and just gives you better visibility into what's being included in this graph. So you'll see all of your ASINs listed down here. Again, this is ASINs that are included on the selected campaign, so it'll kind of be a nicely filtered list for you. And you'll be able to see, are these ASINs currently being monitored by FeedbackFive? So is their data actually included in the graph or not? So for example, this one that's kind of grayed out up at the top and doesn't have any rating data, this is one that I'm not currently monitoring with product review management. But I can see, because this table is sorted by the highest number of emails for each product, I can see that really I should be monitoring this item because so many emails are going out for it. Probably that item is getting a lot of reviews, but I need to actually monitor it to see, are the reviews good? Is it getting a lot of ratings? All of that information. So we recommend sorting the emails column so that it's that arrow's pointing down. So it'll be items with the most emails up at the top. And then if you're not monitoring some of your top ones, you can just check that box to track the ASIN. And so you don't even have to leave the analytics page. It's just going to load up and start monitoring that item right away. If you haven't ever tracked that item before, it might take a little bit longer to load up that data. And then going forward, that information will all be included in the graph as well. So those are the main product review and rating features. Now I'm going to switch over and look at the seller feedback features as well. So if we choose emails and seller feedback, and I'm going to go specifically to my seller feedback request campaign here. So similarly for seller feedback, the feedback that you'll see on the graph is only the feedback on the same orders that received the campaign you've chosen. So if you have a specific campaign for seller feedback and then a separate one for product reviews for different groups of items or something like that, you want to make sure you're just looking at the particular campaign that you need to analyze. And you'll see the feedback kind of similar to how you always have. Just as a reminder, feedback monitoring is available on the Pro plan or higher, and the positive feedback will only be imported if you set up your enhanced feature access. So basically giving FeedbackFive permission to actually view your feedback in Seller Central. If you don't already have that set up or you're not really familiar with it, don't worry. There are instructions in the Help Center. I think Franz is going to share those links as well in case you need them. And you can also just go to Store Settings up at the top, and there will be an Enhanced Feature Access tab with directions there. So you can get that all imported. So once you have that all set up, you'll just see the positive and negative feedback counts pretty much as you would expect, but you're seeing them layered with the email campaign. So you can select specifically your seller feedback request. If you have your items or your orders divided up and you're just asking for reviews on some and feedback on others, then you'll be able to see just specifically the feedback on the orders that were on that campaign, so you can really see that it's generating feedback for you. So like mine here has a really nice spike of positive feedback in late November at the same time that the emails were increasing. That all makes sense. the campaign was going out, extra when there were holiday orders and getting more feedback. It kind of follows the pattern. But then I see it kind of trending downward and going away, like at the end of January. Since this is a dummy account, there could be a few different reasons. If you see something like that in your own, that could mean either something went wrong with the campaign itself. You need to maybe see if it got turned off by mistake or the link got removed, something like that. Or you might just check whether your enhanced feature access is still working and set up. So it's just easy to see anything actionable like that you might need to resolve if you're looking at this data with the emails included and everything together. So that's the seller feedback count. But this is a new metric that we're also including now is the percent positive for the past 12 months. So that's something that if you go to Amazon, you can look at what it is right now today, and you can kind of get a snapshot of whether you have a good feedback score right now. But the difference here is that we are tracking this and keeping a historical record for you, again, layered with the email campaign information. So you can really easily see, if you made a change to your campaign or when you first activated a new one, was there an improvement in your overall feedback score, or was there a decrease? Did it stay pretty flat? So it's kind of normal to see a little bit of fluctuation here, but you want it to at least be staying kind of the same, at least not going down. And then I'm going to scroll down to the products table again and describe why we have some seller feedback information in here too. So this might seem kind of surprising. Normally we have just product reviews tied to items and then feedback tied to your whole account. But what we're doing here is taking the item and then putting the seller feedback that was left on orders for that item. So you can see whether a certain item might be having a particularly positive or negative impact on your overall seller feedback score. So for example, if you're a reseller and maybe product reviews aren't really your main focus, and you don't even have to track ASINs if you don't want to, if you're not really concerned with product reviews, but you'll still want to look at this grid and see the seller feedback and specifically see whether there's a certain product that's kind of dragging down your score. Maybe buyers are not having such a great experience when they order that item for some reason. So you can sort this column by, for example, negative feedback descending, so that you can see which items are generating the most negative feedback. And hopefully you don't have too many, but it's important, especially if you're a reseller or in any kind of seller situation where your feedback score is the most important. Like luckily I don't have any like this, but if you saw an item that just suddenly had way more negative feedback than the others, you might need to look into those feedback comments and figure out, are buyers, was there a mix up in the Amazon warehouse? They're just getting the wrong product, or there's something wrong with this item and they're leaving that on the feedback area rather than the product review area, something like that. Then you could consider, should I maybe exclude that item from my campaigns? You can do that up on exclusions, or just consider phasing it out of my catalog altogether because it's actually damaging the overall reputation of my store. Similarly, if you have items that are just generating a lot of positive feedback, then that's a great thing. So you want to be able to look at all of that. And again, that data is available even if you're not tracking the ASIN. So with that, I think I've covered most of the major features on the page. There are a few other things, like you can download all this information into a CSV if you prefer to work in a spreadsheet. There's also these filters or selections on the side if you want to look at just the data for one particular product. So rather than all the items that are included on a campaign, you can drill down into one specific item and see how is that one item impacted by the campaigns, or how is that one item impacting the overall metrics that you're seeing. So again, if you're seeing some kind of unusual spikes or dips, you might just dig into some specific items and see how they might be impacting the total metrics. So there's a lot of flexibility with this page, a lot of different use cases. One particular example that I think a lot of sellers will find really helpful now is you can use this page to test potentially 2 different campaigns and figure out what type of campaign works best for your business. So even though we don't have things like open rate data or click-through data to do kind of the normal type of A/B testing, you can use this information on the ultimate results to figure out whether, for example, maybe you want to try out the Amazon request a review template and test that against your own custom template and see which one generates more reviews. You could do that by just setting up 2 custom campaigns. So again, you would need to be on the Pro plan or higher to do this. You can set up 2 custom campaigns and just divide your items at random. So by SKU or ASIN, just put, about half and half so that the emails are going out to roughly 50% of orders each, and make sure that nothing's overlapping. You don't want to send 2 requests to the same order, but you could put the Amazon template on one campaign, your custom template on the other, let it run for a few weeks. And then when you come to this page, you'll be able to look at each of those campaigns and the results that were generated from it, whether it's product reviews or seller feedback or both. You'll be able to see all of that and be able to tell whether one of those worked noticeably better than the other. So that's one use case that I'm really extra excited about. I think there's a lot of others just because there's so much information here. But I'm going to pause there and actually see about taking some questions. If there are any that were not related to just my audio cutting out, we will see. I apologize again for that. That was unexpected. All right. Okay, I'm just looking into questions here. Let's see. So here's one that I think kind of ties into the last point that I made. I think it's a common question that we've been getting from a lot of sellers lately in account reviews, et cetera. They're asking which tends to get a better result, the custom email or the Amazon template? And the answer there is really, it's just going to depend on your store. So we've seen overall the Amazon template working really, really well, especially for product reviews for some of our larger sellers who have been able to try that out. But there's a lot of other factors. So, if your brand is very recognizable, if a lot of people just connect with the specific branding that maybe you want to set up on a custom template, that might work better. But if you've ever had a restriction in the past or any kind of policy issues with your buyer seller messaging, then definitely go with the Amazon option just to avoid any repeat issues with that. So there's a lot of factors there, but I do recommend, if you can, just testing both, like the example I gave, and see which one works better. And then of course, if you have any questions about that, or you want some help knowing, maybe you ran the test, but you're still not quite sure which direction to go, you can always just contact us and ask for an account review, and we'll be happy to kind of dig into the specifics of your situation and help you make a judgment there. All right. Okay, I've got another question here. How many ASINs can we track? It's according to the plan, right? Yes, so you get some free ASINs that goes with each plan level. So you'll get to monitor at least a couple of ASINs regardless, but we do also have add-on plans so that you can track more ASINs just depending on what you need. And you can choose to do parent or child ASINs kind of depending on just how granular you want to get with the data. So it's pretty flexible. The lowest add-on plan lets you track up to 50 ASINs, and it's $9.99 a month. So you can start with the free ones at least. At minimum, you want to be tracking some of your top ASINs, and then you can go from there to add more. And Renee is also asking, is there a report to have the percent of received seller feedbacks versus all the emails sent? That's a good question. I don't think we have a specific report that would just give you that information, but you can just look at the overall number of feedbacks that were that resulted from the specific campaign. So there's that CSV download option. You can download that and see just the feedback that came from the campaign overall. And then you can also see the number of emails sent within that same CSV. So you'd be able to very easily just kind of calculate a percentage, I think. But that's maybe a good suggestion. We may be able to see about working that in if that would be helpful, especially if multiple sellers request it. We're very open to suggestions and feedback on all of this. So thank you. All right. Because of especially my audio mix-up, which I really, again, apologize for, we're actually at the end of our time. We're going a little over, but again, the recording is going out soon, and we'll have all the information in that. We will also be more than happy to follow up with you afterward if you ever have more questions. If anybody needs an account review, we're always happy to do that. So just contact us, feedbackfive@ecomengine.com. And we'd love to hear what you thought of the webinar, as well as any questions that you still have. And just as we're signing off, I actually have one question or request for you all. You're all very aware of how important reviews and feedback are for your business, and they're important for us too. So sellers can review apps on the Amazon Marketplace App Store, and we would really appreciate a review of FeedbackFive. We read every review that we get, and we just so appreciate your honest opinions, and especially if you want to share your thoughts on the new analytics page, if you're trying it out and finding it helpful for your business, we would love to see some reviews about that. So Franz is sharing this link in the chat as well, so you don't have to type it out from your screen. But if you wouldn't mind just clicking over there and leaving us a review, we'd be really grateful. So thank you all again for joining. Thank you for your patience with the audio mix-up, and we will probably talk to all of you in the future. Thanks so much.